Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our CEA Solution Spotlight, coming to you live from Griffin's Virtual Expo. If you're new to our Solution Spotlights, these are short, casual conversations where we're bringing our supplier partners together with our in-house technical team to provide you with on-point solutions for your everyday problems. Today, we're going to hear about how you can serve two masters with one activity. We're going to talk about and learn about how you can do sanitation that will help you control plant pathogens and human pathogens as well. We have 4 guests with us today. We have Todd Ruff. Todd is our CEA salesperson serving Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, Delaware, and New Jersey. We have Erica Hernandez. Erica is our CEA GGS Pro Technical Specialist Extraordinaire. We have Mike DeRubo from BioSafe Systems. And we also have Kurt Becker from DRAM. Thanks everybody for joining us. Todd, why don't you get us going?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. So glad you guys could attend. Thanks, Tammy, for getting this set up for us. Special thanks to Erica, Mike, and Kurt for their time this morning. In working with the CEA group, I've noticed that they're keenly aware of the importance of good sanitation practices to help avoid carryover of pests and diseases between crops. It helps to maintain a healthy and clean environment for their plants. Now with COVID, they've had to work to limit the spread of coronavirus in their facilities to help keep their staff and customers safe. It seems like a lot of cleaning. Do we have any solutions to help our growers, both CEA and ornamental, attack the problem with a single solution? Erica?
That's a great question, Todd. So we typically turn to sanitation practices to keep our facilities clean from both human and plant pathogens, though we're more used to thinking about plant pathogens, but that doesn't mean that we can't still follow the same steps. So proper sanitation requires more than one step to make it completely effective. We always have to remember to clean before sanitizing. Always clean before sanitize. And it's a 3-step process to get all the way there. First, we want to think about physical cleaning. So this is scrubbing, anything you do when you're handling your pots or your hard surfaces, anything that comes into contact with your crop or your workers. You want to make sure you get rid of any debris that might be present on the surface that you're cleaning. Debris, if it's left there, can harbor disease inoculum, harmful bacteria, viruses, fungal spores, anything like that. So if we have any debris like soil or plant debris, old plant material, anything like that, and it's left there during the sanitizing process, the surface of that debris might be sanitized, but inside you still might have that inoculum. So it's really important to get rid of all of that debris in the first step with our physical cleaning. Then we've got our chemical cleaning, which is going to be, using a cleaner with acid or base type chemistry. It's a little bit harder, and what that's really going for is getting rid of any residue that you might have missed in the first physical cleaning portion. So we're wiping away any algae, any slimes or sludges that might be leftovers that you might have a hard time seeing, but the chemical cleaner, it doesn't have eyes. It's going to get everything that it comes into contact with. And then finally, once you've gotten those 2 physical cleaning, chemical cleaning steps down, then you can proceed to sanitation. So with our sanitation practices, what makes it really effective is when you know exactly when and where to clean. That's what's really important. So let's first think about, when are we going to clean? The big time that you want to think about sanitizing is after harvest and before transplant. So anytime you are changing over your series of plants, your group of plants, anytime you've got something new coming into your production space or leaving your production space, you want to make sure that space is clean to receive your hopefully clean new plants and to protect your workers as well. And where you want to clean, where you want to sanitize, that's the next big question. So for plants, this is anything that's going to come into contact with plants, or anything that your workers might come into contact with and then come into contact with your plants. So all hard surfaces, floors, walls, your benches, any production equipment such as, pots or trimmers especially. There's a lot of trimming activity that goes on in the CEA world, and in any horticulture world. You really want to make sure those trimmers are sanitized in between each plant. And then also, just making sure that you follow all these proper protocols here. And one final thing that people often forget about is you want to make sure you sanitize and clean your irrigation lines. Your irrigation lines are delivering water straight to all your plants. If there's anything in there that might be spread around, it's going to go straight, it's going to go all the way through your crop immediately. So keeping proper care and sanitation of your irrigation lines is very important. So, with all of that information, I talked a lot about cleaning, I talked a lot about sanitation. Today, we're focusing specifically on hard surfaces. One of our favorite hard surface sanitizers in the CEA world, at least, is Sanidate 5.0. So, Mike, can you tell us a little bit about this product and why we like it so much?
Sure. Thank you, Erica. Well, I'm with BioSafe Systems, and really at BioSafe, we've been at we consider that we've been at the forefront of the sanitation initiative that's taken place really in the greenhouse and nursery market over the last 25 years. And everyone knows that proper sanitation and disinfection between crops, it's of high importance to growing healthy crops. And using the proper tools for hard surface sanitation or line cleaning, as Erica said, it really only becomes more crucial now that we've expanded with food crops or cannabis being grown indoors. The CEA market has relied heavily on our chemistries for the last few years because we manufacture highly effective sanitizers that are safe for plants, people, and the environment. And Sanidate 5.0, that's our flagship sanitation disinfection product. It's an OMRI-approved concentrate. It combines hydrogen peroxide and peroxyacetic acid. And really what makes it so appealing for growers is its versatility. You get a chemistry that, when applied to hard surfaces, it's going to control plant pathogens like powdery mildew, botrytis, and pythium. But just as importantly, and maybe even more importantly, Sanidate has a label that allows growers to treat their facilities and their hard surfaces for human health pathogens. Pathogens that could potentially be harmful to the consumer, like E. coli, salmonella, and listeria. And one thing that's really been the focus of all of our daily lives over the last 7 or 8 months, coronavirus. BioSafe's regulatory team, they worked really hard since the outbreak of the virus, and we passed all of our testing in order to add human coronavirus to our label, as well as List N. So really, again, if a grower is looking for a product that they want to sanitize their walkways with, their walls, their tools, their trays and carts, with Sanidate, that offers them the ability to target those plant pathogens, the human health pathogens like E. coli, and viruses like coronavirus. But it's also important to keep in mind that Sanidate 5, it's a residue-free chemistry. So when you apply it to a hard surface, it's going to immediately kill the pathogen that it comes in contact with, but it's then going to break down into water and oxygen, virtually leaving really no trace that it was ever applied, other than the fact that you now have a clean, sanitized surface. The other thing that I'd like to mention about Sanidate, that I think it sums up the product's safety and effectiveness, it's the fact that it's labeled for post-harvest rinse of produce. Packing houses all across the country are using Sanidate 5 really as a last treatment step before their fruits and vegetables are reaching the shelves of your local grocery store. So again, this is a high-level sanitation product. It's extremely effective against a wide variety of pathogens and viruses, but it's also extremely safe for people applying it, the consumer receiving your plants or product, and for our environment. Now, bear in mind that Sanidate, it can be applied through spray. We have a lot of customers who will mop it to their floors, but it can also be foamed or fogged. And the last thing that I'd like to mention, Sanidate, the Sanidate brand, it extends to a ready-to-use spray bottle. as well as sanitizing wipes. And you can buy the spray or the wipes to wipe down your office areas, your lunchrooms, or even tools and trays. And these products are really a great option to use Sanitate in between your normal sanitation procedures with Sanitate 5.0.
Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds like Erica gave us a good plan of attack. We've got a great product to use. Kurt, can you talk to us a little bit about the best products for application?
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, I'm Kurt Becker with DRAM. We make a lot of different equipment for pesticide application. Sanitizers are no different. The goal is really to put the product where it's going to contact the pest. In this instance, we're talking about hard surfaces. We've made different disinfection equipment. Outside of the ornamental industry, we've been involved in sanitation for a long time. We work in the livestock space. We work in vegetables very commonly. And, ornamentals, we've not been quite as active in, the whole industry has been less active in sanitation. We've really been trying to promote the use of some different equipment, say foamers, fogging, things like that, which are very commonly used in livestock or in vegetables. I think it was alluded to earlier that one of the reasons that those parts of the industry are so much more concerned about sanitation is because they have human pathogens. So we're dealing with things like E. coli or salmonella, listeria, things like that can be transmitted simply by just shipping your product. In the ornamental space, that's been less of an issue. As we get more into other CEA type things, lettuce, cannabis, those human pathogens are concerned, but plant pathogens are a huge one for all crops. We don't want to transmit various plant pathogens which are going to destroy the crop and cause a crop failure. That's very expensive. Sanitation, as everybody's been mentioning, is actually a fairly simple way to keep things clean. We have various equipment from regular sprayers, things that you might already be using and own. Those tools can actually be very good for disinfecting surfaces. So say you take the Sanitate product, you want to clean off shopping carts if you have a garden center. Now we have besides those human and plant pathogens we've been aware of in the past, now we have COVID-19. And the coronavirus, as Mike noted, can be killed by Sanitate. We have another reason to be cleaning in our greenhouses. And so a lot of the tools that you have to do so, sprayers, foggers, foamers, will be useful for that type of thing as well. We have to not only keep our customers safe, but we have to keep our employees safe. We have to keep customers if we're just shipping wholesale to them. We've had a lot of growers in the past year start to use existing equipment. So they own a backpack sprayer and they want to get good coverage of a shopping cart in their garden center. You can spray that down between uses. Another use, foaming. We've seen a couple pictures of foaming. One of the foaming there's a lot of different ways to foam. The less expensive way is typically using like a siphoning injector that takes an atmospheric pressure of air and mixes it with the liquid and the product being foamed and applies it. Typically that ends up being kind of suds and it doesn't stick real well. The advantage of foam is that foam is going to do two things. One is it's going to stick to surfaces, and two is it's going to stay there for a while. It's going to persist. And contact time is really important with any sanitizer. The longer the product stays on the surface, the more it can actually impact those different pathogens. Different pathogens have different survivability levels, and it's all about contact time as far as how different pathogens are going to have different contact times to really eradicate them. The longer you can make that chemistry stay on the surface, the better for the job. So foam, when done right, typically you're adding pressurized air. So we can put more air into the liquid. The idea here is we're basically using a surfactant to make that liquid stick together so that as the air enters that liquid, it expands it, allowing the foam to cover more surface area, but making it drier so that it stays on surfaces. And you need to do that with compressed air typically. So whether we have a pump up version, which puts 60 PSI air into the liquid, we have compressor based versions where you attach an air compressor to them, and that's the only thing that drives them, and you can then apply a foam. The idea, though, is that you can quickly cover surfaces, have it stay on those surfaces, vertical surfaces, benches. You saw a picture there a minute ago of expanded metal where the foam actually gets in and around the expanded metal openings. That's all places where pathogens can hide, dirt and debris, things like that. Foam is also not a bad tool for helping in the cleaning process. Erica, you'd mentioned that you want to clean before sanitizing. Foam kind of bridges that because it will, the surfactants involved will also help lift debris and stuck on, even algae. It'll help that be removed from the surfaces. So foam is a really good tool that is typically underutilized for sanitation. And then one of the last ways to sanitize that I should mention is fogging. We use foggers for a whole host of different type of applications, whether it's surface sanitation or complete room sanitation. We have machines that are automatic. We have machines that are jet propulsion driven, like the pulse fog, and we have targeted machines like this little turbo ULV, which is the bottom right corner. These things are all meant to aim and spray or fill a space with a disinfectant. The pulse fog is very commonly used in both vegetables and in livestock for after cleaning sanitation. A hog barn will be cleaned out and then fogged, room shut up for 24 hours before they allow the next animals into the barn. In tomato greenhouses, when they clean them out between crops, very typically they are doing the same thing. They're applying a disinfectant along with typically a fairly short residual insecticide to that room, basically to make sure that nothing's left when they put the next plants in that greenhouse. The same thing can be true of shipping areas, head houses. When we're worried about things like coronavirus, we now have customers that are taking something like a pulse fog that they've used for years for applying, insecticides, and they are using that to fog their tractor trailers after delivering plants to a customer. Leaving the carts in there that have been at, say, a Home Depot. They sat there for 3-4 days, they got collected and brought back. We don't know who's contacted those. We don't know who's touched those. Before they come back into the facility, they were leaving them in the truck, using the pulse fog in the back of the truck to fill that truck with a disinfectant, closing it up. So they fill that with Sanitate. It allows it sits and works on those carts. They can then open up later and pull those out and they get them back into use. That's being done in head houses. We have customers that are using their pulse fog or that little turbo ULV on production lines. So where sticking cuttings, dealing with plugs. You have a number of people sitting around a conveyor belt where plants are coming past all day. Every night, we've got customers now that are going in and sanitizing those surfaces with a fog to help clean off those surfaces between contact, between employee contact. So using a foam, using a fog, very good ways to help apply products like Sanitate and have them be effective on the surfaces.
Wow, that's a great job, guys. Wonderful teamwork between us all. Erica gave us a wonderful plan of attack, the best way to go ahead and do it. All right. Mike gave us an excellent product to be able to use, and Kurt gave us some wonderful application ideas to be able to not really double up the work, to be able to do what we've been doing in our best practices anyway, and be able to protect our employees and clients from the coronavirus as well. So the one thing I want to highlight is that these Spotlight Series and the Griffin Expo is a special event. But these type of solutions and conversations happen every day between our customers, their reps, GGS Pro, and our supplier partners. This is just a small example of how Griffin uses a teamwork approach to be able to solve problems for our growers. If you have any questions regarding sanitation practices or specific issues facing your facility, please reach out to your local Griffin rep or our GGS Pro department at 800-888-0054. extension 89129, or our customer service at extension 89199. Again, that number, GGS Pro, is 800-888-0054. 800-548-0054, extension 89129, or our customer service department at extension 89199. On another note, we will have printable and downloadable documents about a lot of the things, the products, the Sanitate, the DRAM products, everything that we talked about today. Those documents will be available at the CEA, BioSafe, and DRAM booths. So I encourage you to go stop by their booths, check out the documentation, talk with the experts, and they can give you any solutions that might be applicable to your specific situation. So please go and stop by those booths. Tammy, do we have any time for questions?
We do have a few minutes to take any questions. If any of our attendees have something they're curious about, they could go ahead and type that into the chat pane, and we'll give a few seconds to allow people to do that.
You know, maybe we were just so clear that
I think maybe that was the case.
everyone understands everything about sanitation at this point.
That's great. Well, we're all here to help. Thank you once again to our panelists for being here today. Come and see us at the show, everybody. Thanks much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.